But that was the same event.
So I tried to find gate 2.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure what gate 2 is. I was like,
I should have.
that's not it. No, that's not
It's
it.
the one the firm uses.
Oh, it is the firm one. Okay, because I saw a little thing on there. But it just,
Yeah, that had to be the same group, because there's the.
Yeah.
and I could see it
Yeah.
in their eyes. And I was like,
I thought about taking pictures, and I thought, well, it'd probably be better if I saw it in person. But
yeah, I kind of glanced at it. I wasn't sure if it was the right one. I was like, was I paying attention?
Yeah.
Maybe that was gate 1 and the next one's gate 2 by that time.
All right, I don't have a gavel. We're going to call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 p.m., November the 5th, 2024. I'll call the Keystone Heights Airport Authority Board of Directors meeting to order. Ask everyone to please stand for prayer and then pledge of allegiance. Mr. Delgenay, let's go to our prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this time we can get together and take care of the business of the airport, and pray you just guide us as we take care of things. And Lord, we just pray for our nation tonight, our first responders, and pray for the voting tonight for our nation, and just be with all those who are overseas and in our service and helping to protect our land, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Kuhn, roll call.
Mr. Kirkland.
Here.
Mr. Pryor.
Here.
Mr. Dagenau.
Here.
Mr. Ludwig. Here. Ms. Hall.
Here.
General Ed.
Here. All right, any public comment?
I have none.
Okay. We had received via email the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the September 2024 financials, also approval of the October 8th, 2024 Keystone Heights Airport Authority Board meeting minutes, and the October 17th, 2024 Keystone Heights Airport Authority special meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Wow, we have a thin agenda tonight, which is good. So we'll move all the way down to Airport Manager, Mr. Kuhn.
So just a couple things on my agenda. Since we did acquire the new truck, we want to dispose of the old one, and that requires the board to make a motion to dispose of it. And I don't know the verbiage. We did it in the spring, I think, with a van.
We get to blow it up, or?
To be quite honest with you, but
What are you planning on doing?
selling it.
Just sell?
Yeah.
Just sell it. So.
But yeah, I guess that's a good question. The official term is disposal, even though we're selling it, yeah.
One of the things we've done with a previous vehicle, we donated it to the Road Heavers Boys Ranch for, they take old vehicles, work on them, repair them, and then they sell them to help support the Boys Ranch there. So that's an option available to us as well. It's, well, Craig can.
But don't we like the Boys Ranch?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So here, we have a challenge.
I gotta tell you real quick, we had an old, it was an F-250 utility body truck, and it had a normally aspirated diesel. It wasn't turbocharged. And I don't know if the city had given it to us or what, but it was in bad shape. It just ran terribly. So I told Maria I was gonna take it on the highway and put a for sale sign on it. And she said, well, leave the keys in it, maybe somebody will steal it. I said, well, that won't work because they'll probably bring it back. But we did sell it eventually.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board with respect to disposing of our old F-150?
So just a piece of information, so everyone's aware, I did do a Kelly Blue Book on it. And with no damage, no, other input, just the mileage in the year and the equipment, was like I think 4,400 private sale, but it's in really bad shape. Barely drives under its own power. It's in rough shape.
Well, to go along with that, the transmission, something is going on with it. I did drive it today. And not only that, it needs a new battery. We shouldn't put any more expense in it. I think the road heavers thing is a good thing. It would be, and you do get, although I don't know that we need any tax benefit, but you do get a statement. The only thing I would say with that caveat is the emblems, anything that identifies it in this airport property has to be removed. Those decals on the doors, they've got to come off.
We don't want them to trace it back to us.
Well, the other thing, and I'll say this, I sold an automobile years and years ago, and I just did a bill of sale and gave the guy an open title, and it came back to bite me. The guy was in an accident a year later and almost went to jail. The other thing is the bill of sale must be transferred at the time of sale. And we've done that on other vehicles. So I don't know how the Boys Ranch would take it into theirs, but somehow they need to come here if we do go that route, and the title has got to be transferred to them before the release of the vehicle.
How would they get it there?
It would drive, it'll drive. I mean, it's, yeah,
They do?
they probably have a trailer or
That
something,
would be ideal.
but, yeah.
May not make
We
it.
haven't done that in a while. Yeah, that may not be a bad idea, but,
Do we need a motion?
yeah, I think
Something?
you still gotta have a motion, and I will say this, so the transmission alone could be a $2,000 or $3,000 repair, and we have to be honest to whoever we sell it to if we go. Plus, when we advertise it, we have to advertise it for a couple weeks publicly, and then you can't believe the tire kickers you get. And then when people get here, they say they're gonna do one thing. I mean, I think the donation in this case would be perfect, so just have to make a motion.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Is there any legal thing you need to consider in terms of talking to the legal counsel? I don't know if there's no reason why we couldn't do that in terms of our fiduciary obligations or whatever.
I don't know if there was a threshold or something. Under that, you can donate or do whatever.
Well, it's, anytime we do, what did we move our purchasing up to, $5,000 limit?
That's my limit.
Right. So what do we have to go out for bids, though?
10.
10. So I would say it's below that threshold. I don't know, Charlie, if you correct me if I'm right or wrong.
Yes, sir, I just gave some stuff away, and
So,
our attorney advised me to document it, so I wrote a memorandum for record,
yeah.
put it in a file, if anybody ever questions where that.
If I was going to value it with the problems it's got, I'd say it's worth $1,500. So it's well below the threshold. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we donate this to Road Heavers Boys Ranch with the caveat that the title must be transferred upon release of the vehicle. And all decals or any identifying features have to be removed from the truck before release.
Yeah.
All right. Second, Mr. Dodgenay. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right.
Second item is the gate 2 entrance. That's the entrance that the firm uses. It's in pretty bad shape, has been for a while.
Is the bad part on this side of the fence or on
Yes.
that side of the fence?
It's on the roadside.
Because as I drove by, it didn't look that bad. I mean, it looked like it's got some patches on the
On the north
side.
east side.
Yeah,
East side,
that's a-
yes, sir.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know, it's just, I mean, it's been in rough shape for a while. I know that the tenant has tried to fill in millings and roll them in, but rain and cars, it just ends up down on Airport Road. But I will say, at the time that I put it on the agenda, I had a much lower number verbally given. And then when I got the actual number, it was quite a bit higher, so I don't know, I'm leaving it up to y'all.
I was wondering too, I mean, did they give you, or did we give them the specs or whatever on it, like the thickness and the?
Inch and a half thick, yeah.
Inch and a half thick,
Yeah.
okay.
That was a advice of our engineer, Bill Prang. I ran all this by him. I was gonna put it on the agenda, yeah.
That's probably one.
But this is the Bradford County Road Department that we've been doing it, so I think, that would be, they would know what they need to do.
They're going to do it cheaper than any private enterprise. And that is the problem, is it started out as limestone or dirt, and then limestone, and then you put millings on it, and millings only work perfectly when you apply them when there's hot sun to kind of bond them together. But there's never enough thickness there, and it does run out in the street. However, playing devil's advocate, we're eventually going to be getting that new road opened up over there.
That's
I
true.
don't know when that's going to be, but
Next spring,
Well, remember with that, though,
the West Side Access Road.
even when we get the new gate in, and the county puts the culvert in and connects it to 100, it's only for
emergency use.
emergency use
That's
only
true.
until we get the appropriations or the money to do the turn lanes. So we don't, I mean, we're gonna attack that this year again.
Well, I think it is a nuisance, the way it currently is, and we have had cars actually get stuck, or trailers, when it gets a gully washout. If they go into that little ravine and they're on that incline and it drops, then the trailer gets bound on the road. I think it would be a good thing to do it. What was his last thing? Was it around 6,000?
Oh,
No, 98.
man.
Yeah.
So they're gonna take, are they gonna take it all the way down and then put it back up again? They're not gonna just go
It's not a
over it,
recon,
are they?
oh, yes, it's an overlay only.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if it's not really essential at the moment, maybe let's hold off on spending that money at the moment.
And that's probably one of the highest volume used gates, isn't it? Entrances in and
A
out.
lot of traffic on it.
They're getting ready to do the crawling too through that gate, right?
Yes, this weekend,
But
this weekend.
when would they do that if they did? I'm sorry. When would they be able to do it? Are we talking?
We didn't talk about, I was hoping before that, but it just didn't work out. So it would be after, but soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Since that is a driveway that serves basically the firm, shouldn't they contribute to it or pay for it?
It's probably our obligation to do it under the lease.
It's our road.
Yeah, they don't own it.
Driveway. It's fine.
It's not on their lease, and the RC Club uses it as well.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, there are other folks who use that entrance.
right.
Yeah.
The only concern I have is if you've got that thing and you've already said you've got millings that are doing one thing and lime rock's doing something else and everything, and just to pour pavement over that.
Well, my discussion with our engineer was that we would clean all the millings and stuff out,
Okay.
and then you overlay just the rough,
Limestone that's underneath it or whatever.
right?
So it's got a good enough base. It's just not.
He thinks it would be sufficient. I mean, for the price,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize asphalt had gotten so expensive. I didn't expect it was gonna be nearly 10,000, but Bill did say, even at 6, that's the number he and I had talked about. He said, oh, that's a pretty good deal. He said, you will definitely pay at least twice that if you have a private company do it, so.
Is there any benefit to delaying? Like you said, you wanted to delay. Is there a,
Financially, I think is what, and I get that.
but I mean, it's not gonna be cheaper to delay, really. probably.
That's another good, I mean, there's lots of good
That's
points
the,
here.
If it's available, yeah, if they're
Yeah.
ready to do it or available to do it, that'd probably be good.
Well, the other thing, and I don't know if they can fix it, but because of the way the gravel comes down there, it seems to allow the water to pool there. I don't know if they can reshape that to help that water run into the ditch, but I'm just waiting for somebody to hit that hydroplaning
Right.
and have an accident there.
Actually, you're right. Actually, on Airport Road, it does puddle up pretty good.
It's because of the way it flows down there, I think it has formed like a low spot along the edge.
probably shouldn't.
And they've just tried to make,
Power on that little,
well, the speed limit's 45, but what I'm saying, if you've gone out of here out of a heavy rain,
Little
the
gate.
water puddle sticks out probably
Dry.
3 feet into that lane.
Yeah.
Always go around it. Yes, certainly somebody should have control of their car, but, and aesthetically, it looks like crap to have that loose gravel there all the time. It just looks awful.
And it gets worse with a hard rain too, because there's nothing there to
Right.
hold it back.
So the only thing I would ask if we do it is see if they can somehow maybe contour so that some of that rainwater would run off and find the ditch.
I wanted to have them contoured as well so that lowboy trailers, when they would go in, they bottom out on the fence, yes.
Right.
So I think they could raise that up a little bit to prevent that, but again, I mean, it's financially, do we want to do it at the moment, so.
Well, the cost is going to go up, like you say. And what if you don't get the appropriations this year and we've got to wait another year?
Right.
It's just going to be a constant battle.
And where did you say it was gonna, you were thinking the money could come from?
Again, the capital improvements, but there's only so much there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the right word is, but you know, we're only the first month in the year and we've spent some money already, so.
What did you didn't you put in for a scissors lift or some type of elevator device that y'all pulled back?
You know what, that's a good point. Did we put that in there?
You had put 30,000 in there for
I
that.
took that out.
I thought we took it out of the budget.
I think it
Oh,
was taken out, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I saw it before it was approved then, but I remember seeing that on there.
We did, and we don't, that is something that we don't need at the moment, but I don't know.
We have the funds to pay for it, to cover it. It's just, as Craig was saying, with what we've spent with the truck and some other things with the septic tanks we fixed, and there's been a lot of expenditures in this new fiscal year already, but a lot of that was budgeted for. So he's just being cautious, you know, we're just looking and.
Well, again, just, it's almost, and it's not that it's their fault. I mean, it was just a double the number that I initially thought.
Well, I would think.
Makes me think a little bit harder.
If there's any kind of safety issue with it, then it makes sense to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, no, it's up to you guys. I just, you do what you think's the best.
Well, I think given that it is a primary entrance for any firm activity as well as the RC club. So it's something on our property that we need to fix. I think we need to fix it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Do I have a motion? Bobby, you look like you're dying to make a motion.
Trying to get the verbiage right there. I make a motion that we look into entertaining options or payment towards repairing and repaving the entrance gate for, entranceway for Gate 2 with asphalt overlay.
And I would do like an up to the number he gave me. Yeah,
Up to 10,
up to 98.
98, okay. That was his.
Yeah,
That's his number.
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
A second.
all right. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right. What else, Mr. Coon?
That's it for me. Well, I mean, I guess I have something towards the end. Well, I don't really. I might as well just, you know, I submitted to you all the narrative for last year's budget. I didn't want to go into detail on it unless you had questions, but if you have any, I'll be happy to answer.
I'm good.
Everybody good?
I don't have any questions.
With what was sent out?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. Appreciate the narrative, appreciate all the information. Appreciate you and Mary pulling all that together. All right, Mr. Van Zant, any city comments?
We've got a lot going on. I don't know any of it that directly impacts the airport. For those of you that served in the military and would like to come or have a buddy that's a veteran, we're having a veterans breakfast Friday morning in the Beach Pavilion at 9, and Monday at 11, we're having a Veterans Day ceremony behind City Hall. American Legion's kind of running the program, for printing the bulletins and putting the chairs out. But I'm working on a budget amendment for the year prior for the city, before I was city manager. I'm learning all kinds of stuff every day. It's harder to spend a little bit of money well than it is to spend big budgets when you have a whole finance department of people. I think is what I'm learning. But that's all I have for the good of this body, unless there's something.
All right, thanks, Charlie, appreciate that. All right, moving on to board comments, Mr. Dagenet.
I'd just like to share real quick, a few weeks ago, well, actually it was September, we hosted a little tour from a local homeschool group. And if you haven't had a chance to see, I'll pass this around. Just a little thank you note from the group. They were very well, all of the kids who came, and so they got to see a couple of smaller airplanes, and also tour one of the P3s with Rockland, and which they really enjoyed as well. So had some really good, kids were well behaved and asked a lot of good questions. So that was very good. And one thing I was kind of impressed about is I got a note from the mother who coordinated for the group, is that everybody seemed to be very appreciative that questions from the older students as well as the younger students seemed to be answered very well, that they understood.
I would add too that I think Dave Welch had an emergency or family emergency or something come up and he couldn't be here, or he overslept. I don't know which it was. But we were, I made a call to Tyson Banks because he's one of our tenants and he has a seaplane. And he stepped right up. He brought and it became the most popular airplane. The 172 and 152 were nothing compared to the seaplane.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I already saw
yeah.
it. So.
Along that same line, I spoke with Grant Hooks recently, a couple days ago, and he was telling me about his activities with Joy Roberts
It's
High School.
Putnam County.
Putnam County.
It's Tim.
So he's partnered with Putnam County in providing flight lessons to the high school students. He's still really waiting to get off the ground because every day that the students have a time slot available to come out here, he said the wind has been a little bit too much. So,
He's had a few students though, and they are doing the full-on flight training experience, like the kids wear the white shirt with the epaulets and all that, so they're going all out on the deal.
And they've got funding for those students who are participating to take them up through solo.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think he's even gotten calls from parents that figured since they're already getting the kid that far, they will try to finish their pilot license.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's all good around.
Yeah. Just one other thing, I was thinking recently, it was just about this time or last year, we had an appraisal done on some non-aeronautical use leased property here at the airport. And really haven't heard much on where that's at, and I think it might be a good idea and be pertinent to perhaps schedule a special meeting here pretty soon and kind of see where that's at and come to some resolution on that.
I would be in agreement with that. I think we're all aware that Craig had provided to the FAA the voluntary corrective action plan. We have not heard back. Craig has even had conversation with the ADO in Orlando, and I think they've pinged the Atlanta office, and we still haven't heard anything. But we could still meet, and I had a conversation with our attorney, Jim, today about that as well. And so at that special meeting, he could be here, and we could talk about some things that that perhaps we could go ahead and implement ahead of hearing from the FAA.
We could, because as it is, airports are non-compliance. So we need to kind of look at it.
We need to discuss it
Yeah.
and look at what all of the options are for us, and then, weigh that too. We obviously don't want to go into litigation over this situation if we don't have to, but that could be discussed in that meeting as
Right.
well.
Right.
If y'all want to set a date now, we can. We can set some dates
Add
together.
some comment to that too, just, and it was, I went back and looked, it was in September when that was submitted in the email, went to all of us of the most recent updates to submitting that to the FAA. So, my concern is by doing this, is this going to be something that could provoke a negative response to come back? Because right now, at least things are moving forward. And we have been being updated as far as what's going on from the information Craig sent out to us. And I know it's a slow process, but it's better than where we were a year ago when it all first started out, where everything just came to a screeching halt. And at least now we have a representative that is speaking and they're kind of negotiating terms. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about, is if we go and open that up to.
Technically, it still is at a screeching halt, so we need to look at it.
I mean, we can't make them move any faster. We can't make the FAA move any faster for their response to come back. But that's my concern, is just that we started moving forward with this thing, in slow steps or whatever, but it's better than what we originally had. And if us starting to jump ahead on this thing before anything is officially come out, is that going to turn bad?
Well,
It's been 12 months and there's been no action anywhere.
I have a tendency to agree with Bobby. The hornet's nest has calmed down. Craig is doing his best to move forward with it.
He is.
And I agree with you too, that it would be nice to have some updates. It's slow coming, but if we open up this special meeting, we're inviting them to come. They can come to it, and we could be all in that again. Things seem to have calmed pretty quietly on the home front. Could we just give it a little bit longer? Not denying you your right for the knowledge, but.
And I guess I'll chime in just so that everyone understands that the initial plan of attack was that we were going to, or I was going to have discussions with the representative from the firm to come to an agreement that we thought would benefit both parties or get us in compliance and not necessarily have them shut down. But the big step was we had to get the FAA's approval before moving forward. Because if we decide what we want to do or what we think is the best thing to do, if the FAA doesn't like that, you're not going to do that. But I see Mr. Dagenaw's point for sure. I have no problem educating anybody, giving you any information you want. I try to keep everyone as updated as I can. But I was advised that once the airport district office kicked it up to Atlanta in the region, that it would go much slower. And so far, that's been the case.
As far as their responsiveness.
Correct. I think there was some control was taken out of their hands as to be able to deal with it locally, yeah.
I never got to see what exactly you submitted. Is it a get well plan?
Yes, it was just a plan that got them in compliance with the fair market value. And there was some question as to whether or not we could keep operating the track in the RPZ or not in the RPZ. So it was just something that it was like step one. We're going to see if the FAA will be okay with this. And I just haven't heard back on that, so.
And that's what the ADO advised us, was come up with a proposal. And the way they explained it, it's a back and forth anyway. They may come back and say, okay, we're okay with this, but you've got to do something else here. So we were trying to take the least aggressive resolution to the track, especially the fair market value in our conversations with the escalated, start off and escalated in 5 years up to what the appraised value should be. The FAA didn't say no, but they said that would be considered. So we're just waiting.
Getting a firm answer has been difficult.
And here's the reality too, from what we've experienced already just through Orlando. They're not going to come back and give us a definitive. That's the frustrating part of all of this. They're going to refer back to their advisories, whatever those FAA advisories are. And to Mr. Dagenet's point, that is a non-aeronautical tenant, and they should be paying fair market value. So that's something that we could, certainly discuss and then pass that by the attorney to find out, legally, how do we go about doing that? They've exercised their first option to renew that lease. I mean, if you go all the way back to the beginning, that's what they had, and they exercised that option. So right now, that's what we're operating under, and we did increase it this year, the amount that we're allowed to with the contract. So,
Plus, there's the encroachment issue that needs to be resolved as well.
yeah, and I think, correct me, Craig, if I got the verbiage right, I think the original letter that we'd received, it was listed as potential non-compliance issues. I don't know that.
They didn't put it as if we were an official non-compliance, we would not be receiving federal grants.
That's correct. So it's that fuzzy gray area, I guess, is the best way to put it.
It's very frustrating.
And
Compliance or you're not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
Technically, it is non-compliance,
they just haven't,
but
their
they
status.
haven't officially declared it as non-compliance.
I would probably agree with that, yeah.
yeah, and obviously,
Officially declared, I mean, that's why they did the assessment, right?
I think they were trying, I think the initial FAA response was to help us get into compliance and not drop the hammer on us.
Probably just open our eyes to it,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
right. Because here's the bottom line. We've had the discussion. I think we're all in agreement with this. Whatever we have to do to stay in compliance with the FAA,
We need to do.
we got to do it regardless of how that affects our tenant. We'd like to keep our tenant, but we're not going to forfeit in any way our grants from FAA or FDOT. So it is frustrating. I mean, we're in that holding pattern with the FAA, unfortunately.
Was their lease renewed?
It's just a continuation of the current lease. The FAA is not going to allow us or them to continue under their current lease.
So,
That's a fuzzy
you have a
definition.
lease or you don't?
That's a fuzzy definition.
So we have a lease?
I think, Jim's, if I recall correctly, the verbiage was, it's just a month-to-month continuation.
At the previous payment scale?
Yes.
So this is a little bit different. The original people that set up that track sold it, and this group here assumed their lease, that apparently that lease was not in compliance by previous boards. It gets very complicated.
Yeah.
And now this board is left with them to try to straighten it out, to make the FAA happy and to keep them where they can do their thing.
I still think it would be appropriate to schedule a special meeting to have this discussion.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative.
All right, let me ask you one thing. If you have a special meeting, then we only discuss that topic.
Exactly.
And in a special meeting, you can take board action.
Wait, say that again?
You
cannot.
can take
You can.
in a special meeting.
Oh, okay.
In a workshop environment, you can have discussion all you want.
But no
you can't-
action.
But no action. So what kind of meeting you want to have? Because that's an option available to us. Mr. Van Zandt?
I have this thought, and believe me, I've literally had to knock down dragouts in public meetings. Those are not enjoyable. So I appreciate the calmness that has ensued the last couple of months. However, I I've dealt with the FAA. You, sir, have dealt with the FAA. Everybody at that table has probably dealt with the FAA on some level. Every agency I've dealt with, they have black and white letter law. By a layman, non-attorney's reading, we have a tenant on the airport that doesn't come in those confines of the box. The FAA, and I don't have personal relationships with any of these people that your airport manager has dealt with. They look at the Keystone Airport, they look at other airports, they have funding and grants available, and all these other ones are following the rules. And here's Keystone kind of languishing with this thing that we know is not right, but we really don't want to have a big fight. They don't have to tell you, hey, this next grant is how many ever $1 million that's coming up. We're just gonna give it over here because Williston or Ocala or whoever.
Easy discriminator.
Yeah, it can be kind of a silent non-funder of your priorities. I'm not saying it's going to be. Nobody has told me that. I've just watched it happen when you're very dependent on a governmental agency and you're kind of skirting their rules. I don't know, that would be my consideration if I was still sitting over there, and I'm happy to sit over here.
Well, I'm with you too. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me like this is gonna get better with age, you know?
I agree.
Bad news rarely does.
Exactly. You know, you deal with it and you get over it and then you move on. And you're either in compliance or you're not. To me, that's pretty freaking black and white.
Me, we just
and we
need
should
to
know
fix
what
what's not
it
right.
is. And then secondly, you either have a lease or you don't. And that, to me, ought to be pretty black and white, simple. And it seems like we don't have any of that right now. And
Yeah.
for me, because I sat in on a meeting, I missed a lot of the stuff. And I saw the ugliness though. And I felt bad for everybody about it. But to me, it's kind of like gravity. You know, I mean, you can fight it all you want, but FAA wins. And you're either in compliance or you're not.
That's right.
You have a lease or you don't. And that kind of stuff, you know, it's business. You move on after you get through the ugliness. But I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit in Dave's court that I don't know it's going to get any better the longer it waits. And it almost kind of is a little bit, I think, potentially misleading to them if we're allowing it to kind of drag on in this, you know, purgatory, you know, muddy little, you know, gray area, as opposed to going, hey, man, this is just a fact. This is reality. This is business, and we're dealing with it. We didn't like it. We didn't ask for it. It came to us. And so now, though, we have a responsibility to
Make it right.
and get past it. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. That I don't know that, while it's nice that nobody's yelling and screaming at each other right now, that doesn't make it that it's going to be any less when it does happen. So why not just rip off the scab and move forward?
So to say one more thing now, we were in litigation on those hangars down there for what, 11 years?
10.
10 years, and we spent $300,000 in litigation. And right now, our books are healthy, they're in the black. Doesn't matter if we're right or wrong, but if we go do this and, like I say, rip the bandage off and we get in litigation, we're gonna be spending money, there's gonna be depositions, there's gonna be people tied up in court, we're gonna go back in the red possibly. What's wrong with the?
That's a if.
The FAA has not told us they're yanking our grants. You've already got JSIP things on the books right now. You're buying a new jet fuel truck, you're doing the fuel farm. Everything's Cadillacing along for right now. I mean, has the FAA told you, you better get this together, Craig?
Not in those exact terms.
Okay, so we can go full nuclear and just be done with this, or we could wait and see if we can work something out, because those people there, the last time we met with them, they say they didn't want to go in the courtroom, but believe you me, they were ready to head for the courthouse.
Well, how does it get better?
Well-
How does it get better, I guess, is what I'm wondering, by waiting?
If we can get some compromise.
So what is the compromise? Again, either you're in compliance or you're not. I don't understand
Right.
what is potentially.
But the FAA is going to be the person to tell you you're in compliance.
Okay, let's do this. Let's have a special meeting,
Yeah.
Okay,
because we're getting into the weeds in this thing, and it's not on our agenda. So let's set a meeting and the attorney will be here, and I will say that Chris Cochran, the Chief Portfolio Officer for the firm that's been working with Craig, I've been involved in some of the meetings, he's now aware, so it's not going to be a big shock to them. They know now what we've been telling them because then they heard it from the horse's mouth through the FAA. So.
They have different players on their side.
Yeah, one of their attorneys that was here is no longer with them, and since that time, Chris Cochran's taken over as far as being our contact, and so it's been much better. So I think it can be a reasonable, and they can be involved in that. In fact, in talking with Mr. Taylor today, he encouraged that because it is a public meeting. And Craig and I talked about, depending on what the decision was tonight on the special meeting, we would even notify, if we're going to have a special meeting, we'd notify Chris, make him aware of it, and just tell him, look, this is what our board's, these are the issues coming up. We want to get this resolved. So what kind of dates are we looking at?
What did you decide? You want a workshop?
Special meeting.
Special meeting. So that means action can occur.
That's correct.
We're clarifying that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now a date?
So I'm going to be out of state until the 16th. And then I'm going to be going again on the 20th, 21st, 22nd to the Florida Rural Economic Development Summit in Ocala. But I'm available the 18th. Any time during the 18th. I'm not available that evening. I'm available anytime Tuesday, day or evening.
How about that Monday or Tuesday after lunch, say 1 o'clock?
Monday, the 18th at 1. Is that doable for those that are still working? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work for me.
What does your schedule, Terry, look like, you and Bobby both, for the 18th, or, well, the 19th then?
I'm open for the 19th.
You're open? How about you, Terry?
For a nighttime, you're talking about like for an evening?
Evening I could.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah, I
evening.
could do evening. I could do evening Monday or Tuesday.
What time's the earliest you can be here?
I'll be here at 5 or 6.
19th looks good for me.
Just out of curiosity, if we wanted to move our meetings up an hour or two, would that be a conflict? Would that be a conflict with you? Like our regular monthly meetings instead of 6, starting earlier, or?
Kind of prefer 6.
Okay, okay, just curious.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I know she's probably more dependent on that schedule than any of us, because the way my schedule works is different. It's just,
Bobby, can you do Monday?
Monday is fine, but if
I think Jim is unavailable Tuesday, by the way.
it's evening, if y'all.
Tuesday's not good for me either, if I can help.
Okay,
I'm good for Monday.
What did you say about the previous week? You said you're not here at all?
I'm out of state. I'm out of state from the 7th through the 16th, and then I'm in Ocala the 20th through the 22nd.
Why don't we go to the month of December? What's going on there?
Well, we can do
We've
that.
waited this long. Can we do that? Mr. Dashnay, will that work?
What about the 25th,
December.
26th?
Well,
Jim is out that week.
Is he? Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking
All
about
right,
December.
what do we,
I think this would be a couple of meetings. If we decided on any action,
Greg said Jim's open the 18th.
I mean, that would,
Yeah, was there a problem with someone on the 18th, the evening of the 18th?
There's no.
I think everybody was good for that, right?
Just be advised, the city council doesn't meet in
Oh,
December.
that's right.
So they shifted.
That's a city
evidently they
council
always
meeting
do.
night.
So our city council meeting, regular meeting's the 18th.
Oh,
None of y'all can come.
What?
I'm sorry. You're all welcome to come, but if you have a meeting, you can just send me your notes and I'll tell them whatever you're telling them.
what date did you say?
Monday, the 18th.
Is the
November.
city,
the city's having a.
Just for the month of November. Typically, we
18th,
meet
yes.
the Monday night
all
before
right,
you guys.
make it the 18th. I'll do something with my meeting. My meeting can be taken care of by somebody else.
Right.
Okay.
So let's do that.
You got a conflict 18th.
No, it's okay. It's not, it's flexible.
Okay,
What time?
What time you want to make it?
same time?
5?
Can you be here at 5? Is that pressing it too much?
I could do 5.
All right, 5 o'clock. 11/18/2024 at 5 PM for our special call meeting.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Mr. Kuhn to be prepared to give us a summary update of from where we started to where we are now with respect to the FAA and some of the other meetings we've had. So that way everybody's up to speed. He's had the conversation with Jim Taylor, so he's up. So, all right. Anything else, Mr. Dodgenay?
That's it.
All right. Ms. Terry.
Yes, we have a contract that is signed with the contractor, and they're actually talking about possibly this week, but I didn't hear from him today, so I don't think it's tomorrow, and I don't think it's,
The weather's probably not gonna.
yeah, so it might push it off the first part of next week. So I was trying to get a hold of him. I talked to him Monday. That's when he told me we're looking at maybe trying to do it later this week. So I'll have to get back with him. He'll probably know more tomorrow about any delays and stuff, but definitely let you know first thing.
Okay.
And this is the aerial spraying part? Are we gonna close off Airport Road?
Never thought about it.
Won't take, he won't be there long.
I wouldn't think we'd need to.
Well, you're talking about.
He's only going to do it,
People can
it's only going to
ingest
take him like 2.5 minutes
Yeah,
to make the run.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just gonna
It's just
come.
one
Yeah,
run?
yeah.
yeah.
No, there'll probably be a couple of
No,
runs.
over that area, but,
Okay,
But
so
it won't
anybody
take
going
long.
by there, just hold their breath.
yeah.
Well, I'm saying, I'd be a little
There shouldn't be-
sarcastic.
There shouldn't be anything, because if there's any
So if
wind, we
anybody
won't be
breathes
doing
this,
it.
that is not harmful to them.
They shouldn't be breathing, it shouldn't be blowing.
Okay, just making sure.
I'm,
You breathed it.
I was a flagger one day and I'm still living.
You seem normal.
He's shorter, but other than that, his birthday sounds like
When did
me.
I do that? 79.
All right.
At the same time, we'll also make a point of letting.
I was a flagger for a crop duster.
Hunting season has started.
Yes.
We'll make sure and let them know.
Okay.
And that's a 40, I think we'll go with the 48-hour window.
Camp Crystal as
We
well.
haven't just, I'm trying to get with the contractor because they're arranging other than they kind of make a route. And so, not quite sure yet. I might know tomorrow, but.
Yeah, Camp Crystal. Make sure Camp Crystal and the sportsman's club are notified.
Okay.
I used to run behind the mosquito truck when I was a little boy, and I'm fine. And sometimes I still run behind it.
What kind of lead time do you think they'll give you?
It's usually, I would say about a day and a half, 2 days. They should give me that. It's not a lot, but I can ask them for more. They should have a pretty good idea.
I just worry if Camp Crystal has something planned and they're already using it, because kids pay to be in there.
But during the school year, they don't have as many activities.
Yeah.
Record.
Okay.
Yeah, then again, like I said, they're not gonna be there long.
Right.
They won't be like dropping anything except within the boundaries of where we're treating. So, I mean, it should be fine.
It should be over the camp.
I think it'd be more of, so they wouldn't be concerned, that they're hearing them, they're close by.
All right, you've already done your budget narrative. Colonel Allen, good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you for the invite. We're good.
We miss our Florida National Guard rep, but we're going to get a new board member January 1. So any updates, anything from Camp Landing?
None, sir, business as usual. We're trying to, I don't know if you folks have ventured in the UAS stuff yet. We're having to spend a little more energy on that and kind of codify the way Lane is going to do that. Lots of interest, just largely based on the restricted airspace piece.
What kind of UAS are you talking about?
Sure, it seems to be a variety. The forestry folks are looking at a souped up quadcopter type thing for fire mitigation, fire identifying hotspots and things of that sort. And it sounds like the Marine Corps is kind of working with the Rapid Fielding Initiative, and whatever vendors they've contracted with are looking for that restricted airspace to kind of have a bit of a fly off. So it's more than we've had to use to dealing with in the past.
Are they doing it on the airport landing, the airstrip?
No, sir, it'll probably involve North Post as well. That's when we start getting into the particular altitudes they want to fly at. But as you know, we have to knock down that first piece, make sure it's not just a vendor looking for space to kind of show what's going on. So once we establish that true military nexus, But it means for us, at some point, when we start charging for the airspace and, how do you containerize that and what does it require? But that's about it from the planning side, aviation oriented.
The FAA gets wind of it, they're gonna want a percentage of that, what you're gonna charge.
Well, so that's the easy thing about it is we stay, closely nested with them. Because as the general said, I mean, it's clearly black and white. We know not to get bent there,
Very good. All right, thank you. All right, our agenda is completed.
Nope.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You weren't on the list there, but go ahead, Mr.
So we
Fryer.
received an email from Mr. Craig that says, please see attached and understand that we are trying to put any topic discussion that does not need board action under comments at the end of the meeting. And I disagree with this. When this board comment thing came up, it was a mimic of what the city was doing. The city council, at the end of their meeting, seems to have casual comments, and I take it that they cannot be about anything that would be voted on. And a lot of times this is, the mayor spent the day with the fourth graders at Keystone Elementary, or the vice mayor ate at one of the restaurants in town, and it was really nice, and the atmosphere was nice. Somehow, the way I'm reading this, we've now got a dual agenda. And I don't know what the reasoning is for it, but first off, this board did not approve this. I don't know how this got approved. I think it was possibly to cut down on the time of the meetings, but as you can see by Mr. Dagenet going on, we've still spent time here for this meeting.
No, wait a minute, what happened?
Well, you've been running under that spraying helicopter. You're gonna stay away from it. But the problem I have with this is, and case in point is last month I brought up the application for events. I didn't know there was going to be a vote on it, but I brought it up underneath my resources or my, when my time to speak was. And we did have a vote on it, and we decided we were going to do it. So the problem I have is, in discussion, if something comes up in our board member comments, everything will have to be listed now on the agenda for board member comments. You cannot make any casual comments because now you're not allowing the public to know what you're going to be speaking about. And secondly, if the only place you can vote on it is in the aforementioned part of the meeting, then you can't vote. You've got to wait. You've now split the agenda.
No.
You've split it into voting agenda and you've split it into a non-voting agenda.
No, we've split it to where we have action items that the board needs to vote on.
Okay,
Now-
who decided this? Did we have a vote on this as a board?
We've never voted on it.
Does it need to be voted on?
Well, I'm just asking,
It's just a proposed layout of the,
but should
Events of the
we
evening.
decide how our meetings are going to be run?
The way that
Is it up to you and Craig how we're going to do this? Because I don't understand this new format.
Well, let's talk about the format.
Okay.
So you're right, the city adopts this. Most county commissions adopt the same format
Okay,
because of the amount of information that has to be addressed at those meetings. Then they only want items that require a board or commissioner action on the agenda. Now, that doesn't mean that during, as I mentioned, what you can do with your board comments.
right.
If you have an item for the agenda, just say, hey, look, FYI, I'm bringing an item to the agenda next month that I'll have information on that's going to require action by the board.
So now we have to delay anything that could have a vote by a month. If we don't know that it needs to be under the vote section, we have to wait.
Why wouldn't you know it's going to be under the vote when he sends out the email if you got an?
I don't know
item
if
that
my
needs action?
idea, I don't know if mine is going to need action. I didn't know I was going to need action when I brought up, we were just going to bring it up for discussion about the application for events. And I thought that I was right. So what we were discussing, just briefly, we were discussing a tenant having an event at their hangar. I thought because it was non-paying, there wasn't money being exchanged, it wouldn't be needed. Come to find out, I was wrong. So we had to have a vote. So if I wait and have it in the discussion section under comments, now I've got to wait till the very next month. Is that what you're telling me?
If something, yeah, I think only because it gives whoever's going to bring that item up for an agenda and for action, then any supporting documentation that you would have, we would get to see it before the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so let me ask you, what was the purpose in changing this for? What was the benefit? Was it because it'll save time?
No, the benefit is because, well, it's saving time because there's no reason for us to be here or anybody that's watching us on YouTube to sit through 2.5, 3-hour meetings.
Okay.
When we're just discussing a lot of stuff that typically, and that's the reason for a workshop. I mean,
Okay.
if you just want to sit around and talk about some things, then that's what a workshop's designed for.
Okay.
But for our board meetings, just like with the city, let's just take action on what we have to take action on, have all the documentation to Craig. When he sends out our request for agenda items, put it on there, send your supporting documentation with it, and then everybody gets to look at that before we meet, so that when we do get here, we don't have to spend an hour.
Isn't that what we
Just
did
going through
before,
it.
though? Wasn't it all on there before when I said I needed to speak about something? Wasn't it already on there the way it was?
About what?
Anything?
And I'll say, I was the one that requested the board member comment thing for us to have that added in the
Okay.
beginning, because of the fact that if we, as we went down and we moved through each of us and we went over whatever topics we were going to talk about, if there was anything we wanted to be able to re-speak about, because of, again, how I was asking
So
questions.
it will not be like the cities, right?
Yeah,
We're not going to do it like the city. We've just added it because we saw the city doing something similar.
it was just, it gave us the opportunity when we were talking about that, because I was coming in and asking questions,
Okay.
where's this, why are we doing it this way, why don't, and everything.
Okay.
That doesn't need to be under the agenda thing, that needs to be in something at the bottom, and then somebody from the city had said, you know what, why don't you guys add the board member comments at the end, so if you do have additional questions, you can still ask questions, or.
Okay.
It's not stuff that you're voting on that's down here, it's, that would be the stuff that would be if we had any big items under our titles. At least this is the way that I always took it. Down here gave us the opportunity to just speak on different things, different topics that were, that just kind of came up, or further discussion on something we had going on. It was my impression of it.
Okay, so let me ask y'all this then. So under board member comments right now, we need to still put something on there so that the public can see what we're going to talk about, right?
No. It's
You
just
can bring up
comments.
anything?
It's just comments.
You can bring up
From the
anything?
meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A response to something somebody else said, hey, I just
Okay.
had a question about
Okay.
this or something.
And the
Other term might be general discussion.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask that is so Mr. Dagenet has got local educational updates on his, and you discussed
I
that.
did that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Why did you talk about the firm then? Because you can?
Because I could see that.
Can that be brought up?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
your comments,
that-
that we have something there.
Because
we
I
can
was
talk about
speaking at the
anything.
time. All I did
How do
was,
you keep this?
all I did was is ask for another time to talk about it.
Right.
That's what I
But it got
did.
into a discussion, didn't it?
Well, that's easy to do.
Okay.
Couldn't
Well,
that
it
be
is.
under his report section?
No, they're saying you can't now because it's a non-actionable item. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Same with that, or something like that.
But all I did was
To be a hot
ask for a
topic.
different time to talk about
You
it.
did, but it still led into a discussion, and it's under
Well,
your
that's
time.
easy for everybody to do.
And it's under your time, but how do you harness this?
Well, the comment section originally was for an FYI, just like for the education information.
Right.
Or anything you may have with the airfield that comes up.
Okay.
But hey, by the way, this happened this week.
So
You could
just
share that
because
with
you
the
didn't
board.
list it there doesn't mean you can't talk about it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I think it's fair, just because you asked me before the meeting, I didn't write it down, I was ready to close the meeting, but you weren't here.
But
so
why do I have to? I've got the right to board member comments at the end.
You do, it's just so that I don't close the meeting or
Okay.
whoever else.
So
before-
every month I'm going to have to put something down for board member comments so I can speak.
I thought during
Does
the,
anybody in the room see where I'm going with this? I'm not trying to be difficult.
Well, all he's got to do is just ask, does anybody else have any comments before we adjourn?
And that's what we were doing, and now it's been said, you've got to put it under here now to speak about board
why wouldn't
comments.
you,
I didn't before.
reports for each person, why wouldn't you just go to each person and say, do you have anything to report?
Well, that's what we did the first few times we did it, and now we're not. Now we've got to be written down here.
Can we not go back to that?
We don't have to write it down, it's just a reminder
Okay.
that we cover things that somebody wants to make a comment about. So We can do it right at the end. I'll ask the question. Any board member comments?
I'm good with it. I'm just trying to figure
Okay.
out, because I know time and time again, I occasionally, and it's been my fault, I've brought something up and you've told me that's not on the agenda, that cannot be discussed. And now I'm trying to figure out how he doesn't have on the agenda even the meeting date request for the firm. How does he discuss that?
Well, our bylaws say that any board member can request a special meeting at any time.
I'm not talking about the meeting, I'm talking about the discussion we had. How can it be done if
okay.
it's not listed, is
All right.
all I'm asking.
I'll take the blame that I let the discussion go longer than it should have,
Okay,
but the reality is what he did was okay.
okay.
All right? So in the future, if you have a comment, share the comment.
But you need to still list in
No.
general what you're going to be talking about in the comments.
No, we won't do that. It's just board comments.
Okay, so the meetings could possibly go longer. We're not saving any time then.
Here, but see, with board comments, yeah, we're saving time because we're only going to take action on things that are on the agenda.
Right.
Down in board comments, I would hope that someone would not drone on and on and on about a subject matter. If it's something that the board needs to address at a future meeting, then just say, hey.
Then you move it to that area there for the next meeting.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Even though it's discussion and it doesn't require a vote.
I think the discussion should be for information. It's a comment. It's not a time to delve into stuff. It's a
I must be the
comment.
only one here having a problem grasping
I
around.
understand what he's saying.
Because if I
like,
can't have discussion
the thing
about
that you brought
something
up
up in
should have been
here
brought up
because it's
under
a
your
non-votable
title.
item, but I can't go on and on about it here, I can't talk. That's what I'm hearing. You know what I'm saying?
I think from what you're saying is you're.
I'm
gonna
not
ask them,
hearing that.
Does anybody else have any comments or whatever? And that would be the point where we could bring something up.
That's
Is
right.
that correct?
Yeah.
That's right.
So I'm,
So I guess the way we've been doing it for years has been a problem. I just don't.
Hopefully the comments are,
It's like everything else, Mr. Fryer. We're wanting to grow. We're wanting to be better.
Okay,
We're doing things better than we did years in the past. And that's the whole purpose is, again, I want to be respectful for your time and our viewers' time, that here's business that needs to be handled. And then beyond that, somebody may say, okay, I don't want to hear those guys talking. I'm going to tune out.
okay. Okay, so I understand now where you're coming from. Now, what I want to know is, I didn't write anything down here that I was going to have comments, but I think I have a right to under what you've said.
Sure.
Where are we at with our funds investment with the banks?
We have not heard back from the bank yet.
Okay,
And we were waiting on Rebecca to get back with Mary to go through QuickBooks in order to come up with the information that they were requesting to do the cash flow analysis and investment analysis.
okay,
So Rebecca was just here a week ago to close out October. So I think her and Mary got together then, and we're still pulling that together.
so what do I need to do for next month if I want to put on here that I'm not satisfied with what's going on with the bank, what's going on here? Does this need to be under my heading as airfield chairman for a possible vote to change banks or get something moving? Because I asked for a specific thing, and like he says, I'm not getting any results. I'm not getting feedback. In the meantime, the prices of CDs continue to plummet downward.
And we continue to spend a lot of money on things out of our,
Well, here, we can't get into a long discussion about this, I know. So,
okay,
do I need to put this on the agenda next month, is what I'm saying there.
well, I guess my question is, why can't you go directly to the airport manager and sit down and have that conversation with him?
Well, I thought we took a vote on this or we're gonna take a vote, and y'all said Ameris was working on something that will start earning us money. We don't seem to be doing anything. And then we're talking about spending money, what, 9,000, 9,800. I hear from you about we're burning too much fuel on the tractors and everything. And yet we've got money that could be making money for this airport. So I'm getting conflicting views. Now, personally, and I'll finish it up with this, if my bank is not doing what I'm asking them to do, I'm changing banks. and I'm a member of this board. It doesn't mean everybody will agree with me, but by golly, we've got money that can be making money. If we only take 20% of it, we need to be earning some money. We need to be doing
But back to my
something.
question, why can't you have that conversation with Mr. Coon?
I suppose I can. I can do that.
Because he's the one that's working with the bank anyway. And
Okay.
then he can bring that as part of his report on an update
Okay,
when we have information to report.
okay. I'll do that. I just didn't understand how this can work. So again, with board member comments, we're just going to go around the room like we continue to do. You don't necessarily have to put anything. Something can pop in your head and you can bring it up then. And then it can be decided if it's going to be brought up as an actionable item, but it'll have to wait until the next month, even though it may be something urgent, or we might have to schedule an emergency meeting for the vote. Is that a possibility?
Sure.
But just because, and I'm just getting a clarification, just because it's under comments doesn't mean we can jump back up here and vote because it was not listed as a votable item.
Right.
Would that also be correct to state?
Correct.
Is that the way y'all understand it?
Say that again. I don't follow.
So if it's something that I bring up that I think we need to have a vote on pretty quick, I've got to wait till the next month under this.
That's
Before
correct.
we could bring it up here.
Right.
And it could be voted on that night, but we're doing away with that.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, just so I'm clear. And the board didn't vote on this. You and the airport manager decided it would be this way in the best interest of keeping the meetings flowing along better.
That's correct.
Okay, so the board doesn't get to vote on this, just so you're clear.
And from my understanding, the way it was supposed to be was, because even like, in some of this came because of me coming in and questioning things within my first year like I did. And one of my topics would be general discussion, and that kept getting kicked back saying, that's too vague, we need more detail. If you got something you're gonna bring up, you need to say it. In my opinion, the way that this should have worked with what Mr. Dagenet brought up, that should have been listed under his title there, and it would just been a question about the firm. Because then that way it is on the agenda, that way there's the public notice and all of that comes out and everybody sees that, knowing there's going to be a discussion on that. Not to bring it up, that's not something you bring up under the board member comments.
But I didn't ask for a discussion tonight.
But you didn't list that there. You listed it under local education updates, and then you threw it in there during that point, which
Yeah.
is not what that, local education updates could have fallen under your title or under the board member comments. But if we're going to bring up the thing about the firm, which is a hot button topic that we may have to vote on or have action on, from my understanding, it should be under our title. If we have a question or a topic we want to bring up under, that's where it should be brought up as, and to not under the board member comments saying, that's no different than me doing the general discussions that I kind of got in trouble about, and said, hey, no, it needs to be more specific. Then this was brought along just to give us time if we needed to ask a question about something or further the, whatever we were discussing earlier, but not to bring up something like that, like a hot button topic there that's going to create action or meetings or whatever. That's the way that my impression, the way it was all supposed to go.
That probably would have worked, but again, our bylaws do state that a board member at any time can call for a meeting, a special call meeting. So he wasn't out of order for what he did, but I agree with you, that probably would have been better under an agenda item.
Does it say in our bylaws that we can't take a vote on something unless it's on the agenda?
Correct.
That's a Florida statute, I think.
Yep. Yep.
I was trying to be quiet, but probably can't. No. So you have a public that's entitled to know what you may take action on. You can always bump it, move it to the next month, whatever. So in my head, the way I've done this for years, I have action items. That way people know anything they could possibly take action on. You have all the backup, what line of the budget, if you already know any specifics you have, you put it under your action. That way, if somebody that rents a tea hanger from you, just a member of the public wants to come in, they come in and they're here for like one or two items. Then you have some just general discussion topics. Do we want to put this on an agenda? This is stuff me as a manager or school superintendent would ask, you want me to go find money for this? Is there interest in it? That would be some discussion things. You guys and board members could do the same thing. And then I think you beat the dead horse to death on the board comments at the end. That's kind of a free-for-all, but you're not gonna vote on any of those things. It's not, that's the way you do it, but to conserve people's time and to give them adequate chance to look at whatever you know you're gonna vote on and what those items are, you put that up front. So if the meeting goes 3 hours, people can come in, do their part, get on with their life.
But you can bring up anything you want at the end. It doesn't have to be
You're
listed.
not gonna act on it.
Right.
I mean, because you can't get 7 people together if somebody not have 3 more good ideas after you talk for an hour. So you're gonna have that, and that kind of is a heads up to your manager to
Well,
put it on for the next hour.
I'm not, it might appear that I'm mad at people. I am not. Y'all did what you thought was right. But I'm trying to see how in the heck this is supposed to conserve time, because it seems like to me it could open it up to make the meetings longer. And here's the bottom line. We're paid as board members to meet one time a month. Sometimes we have others. The city people meet, lately they're meeting 5 and 6 times a month. I've seen meetings constantly, it seems like. And maybe it's just because they had to deal with the budget. But if we're doing all this to condense our meetings, maybe we don't need to be on the board if the meetings are taking too long for somebody. That's my bottom line, that's my statement. I don't know how this speeds things up. Once I get used to it, I'll probably be fine. But I know now that under comments, I can bring up anything I want without any heads up on it. And, and try not to ramble on about it. But if I have 5 or 6 or 7 things, what I tried to do under the old thing was just put on there what was pertinent to talk about that night. But it appears we've been given free rein now under this new thing called member comments to just bring whatever comes up into mind.
Well,
And that can happen to anybody sitting at the table.
but let's be logical about it too, because again, let's make sure there are things that you can talk to our airport manager about and get answers to without bringing it to this body and then having 6 others involved in it as well. And he can bring an update.
Okay.
Let's don't abuse the comment time.
No, I don't want to do that.
It's an
I don't wanna do
FYI,
that,
here's
but
some
I'm saying
things.
anybody can now do that. They could. I'm just saying, you've opened that door, so.
Well, and
And I just thought it would have been nice for us as a board to talk about this, but apparently we didn't need to because the decision was made for us. And again, it may have come from your suggestion, and it might be that it's a great thing. But it seems to me like we didn't gain any order, we've actually lost some order.
no, we're going to maintain the order
the agenda
and
now.
we're going to take
Yeah,
action.
but we're still going on
agenda
because I'm
items.
trying to figure out what I can talk about and what I can't. He was going to skip right over me because my name wasn't listed here, and I didn't read this until I read the email with this attached, that this is the new way we're doing it. And so it just kind of caught me off guard. Okay, I can't even discuss it. So I even asked him before the meeting, I have a concern with this, the way this, to me, is a split agenda, and that may be the wrong term. And he says, well, bring it up under comments, and then he was ready to close the meeting, simply just because you forgot. I know you weren't doing it deliberately to me.
Right.
But now I've got to list something so I can be sure I can talk.
Well, no, and it should,
So-
the way we have been doing it before was just at the end, when you would just ask, is there any board member comments? And then at that point, we all, and not, this may have just been ahead of time, and I'm not speaking because I don't know. I'm just, when I look at the topics that are there, that are actually listed there, that was something that somebody was just going to speak freely on these particular topics, not from all over different topics.
But you can add things to it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, I mean, apparently you can. So just be aware of that. Things can be added, and so if I've got one thing listed there, and I got 2 more things that come up, and he's got 1 more thing, and she's got a couple more things, we haven't really saved any meeting time. So it's just, I'll be fine with it. I apologize for all this.
Let's try
I'm
it.
just trying to understand how it's going to work from now. So that's all I wanted to know.
All right, any other board comments?
So I
Not from me.
have one question. Last time, Terry, you were going to forward us the forestry master plan?
Yeah, I haven't found the digital thing. I'll have to get back with Carlton and see if he has it.
I have one.
Is it actually on the? you
It's
got it
on our
the
server,
drive?
yeah.
He's got it on the server, okay.
It's so large, I'll have to create a download link, but I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I should get with you about that. So I can do that. The other thing, and I apologize, my second meeting, so I'm still trying to understand how this works too. But where it had on there that we each had a report, you know, you have each of the committee chairman with a report. I thought that was going to be, that you were going to ask for us for a report or anything on there. Since you didn't, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about what what was the results of our strategic planning meeting that we had earlier? Is that something worth updating the board on?
Yeah, you can share that if you'd like, because that falls under your area
Okay.
as a comment.
So in the future, should I have Craig put that on the items under my director?
The items under our individual names for action that requires board action.
Okay, so if it's just updating everybody on a meeting that we had, then that's not something I need to have put on the agenda?
Correct.
Okay,
That's something we would do under board comments.
okay. Do you think it'd be worth us informing the rest of the board as to what we got out of the appropriations planning meeting?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll take mine, I'll just hit my notes, and if you want to add to them, I know
Okay.
you were taking notes as well, but you were saying that December 2nd and 6th is going to be the House meetings, and 9 and 13 are the Senate meetings. And we had Charlie here, the Clay County Utilities Authority guy, Crawford Powell from the Clay County Economic Development Council, and also the
Amber Shepherd.
Amber from the Northeast Florida Economic Community Development. So it was I thought, a helpful meeting in that we got a lot of different discussion items as to what are some of the things that we could be doing as we prepare for the strategic plan, excuse me, for appropriations. So the top two topics that the chairman brought up were the water sewage projects and State Road 100 connectivity and the current entrance challenges that we had. The interesting thing I thought, and I was learning from the entire process because I'm brand new, but the Clay County Utility Authority, or whatever the CCUA stands for, they submitted appropriations requests for water projects last year, and every single one of them got vetoed. So it's not going to be very easy from what I gathered, and please fill in if you got another impression, for us to get the CCUA to provide money. And Craig, you were there too, so please, I would like this to be a discussion, just my notes, for us to get extension for county water and sewer up to here. The things he did mention is Department of DEP, was Department of Economic
Environmental protection.
Environmental Protection. They have grants.
That was DEO. Yeah.
DEP, grant channels for all water projects. Was it DEO?
I don't have my notes with me, but
Department of Environmental Opportunity.
no, it's part of the Department of Economic Opportunity and ties back with job grants and
So one of the questions that I had out of that is, what are our next steps then if we want to continue to pursue, water and sewage onto the airport property? I didn't have a good feel from that meeting as to a recommended way ahead, other than the potential for these grants to be pursued for the water projects. Is that kind of the way you interpreted that as well?
yeah, and just to clarify something else here too, the meeting that we had was, Scott Cornegay was here as well, was to, from those stakeholders, get information from them about their process that they've used in the past. We didn't talk specifics about action because we knew that with the Gerald and I being in the meeting together for sunshine issues, we were talking specifically about from them what support they would provide, what direction they might recommend, because we're all in this together. All these stakeholders are together. Yeah, it was more just trying to figure out, because Charlie, to his credit, had told us that this year we need to attack the appropriations request a little differently, in that we needed to get information together ahead of time to meet with some of these committees that are involved with looking at all the appropriations grants. And then if it makes the cut through committee, then it gets to the next level.
Right.
So we're not even sure last year that it even got through a committee side. So that was the whole idea in trying to come up with some of these legislative dates. And until after today, after the election, we're not going to know anything as far as dates for the House or the Senate. But that should be coming available here within the next couple of weeks. So the idea is then with this information, then, okay, where do we go from there? What's our next step? The next step then, and Jeremy Johnston with CCUA, when he dropped that bomb on us about
Right.
all the utilities requests from last year got vetoed just immediately.
Budget.
It was like, wow.
Right.
Then do we even consider doing it that way? So that's why the conversation then with Crawford and Clay County Economic Development and in Amber Shepherd with the Northeast Florida Economic Development Corporation talked about, okay, here's some other resources that we may want to go out there and try to leverage for that money. So that was the purpose of our meeting. I thought it was really beneficial in that a lot of people in the group got really up-to-date information about our feasibility study that was done, as well as the monies we're looking at for the entrances out here for the connectivity. So I think it was worthwhile. There's some things that, again, we're waiting until we hear from the committee. So when we can start approaching them with what we're going to propose. That's an item that's going to come back on the December agenda, is for the board to consider, what appropriations requests are we going to make? Are we officially going to take action to say, okay, let's pursue this? So that'll be on the December agenda.
I notice Craig's also got a road counter down there, I guess. Is that, Bradford County put that in for you?
Yeah.
So it's counting the traffic, coming in and out, which is going to have a nice spike this weekend with all those Jeeps coming in.
Oh, it will.
That'll show a lot of traffic.
The utility feasibility study we talked about, is that something that we have access to?
Craig has that. He can get you a digital.
Yeah.
The AECom,
Right.
the city paid a large portion of that, and we paid a portion of it to have that feasibility study done. CCUA requested that before they would move forward with even any discussion with us. So that's done.
And that's something we can use, though, as we work with the appropriations committees?
Yes.
Okay. You talked about a plant expansion in work already, design this year, permitting in 6 months, and construction in 2 years, so about a 3-year process. And I guess that was not really affecting us necessarily, but more the...
That's for the city's existing facility being expanded to additional capacity.
See, one of the questions that came up was what committees deal with our projects. I'm not sure we got a good answer on that, did we?
No. Especially when Jeremy made his comment about
Yeah. them getting mixed up.
not even getting, first base on it. I think we can talk with Chuck Brannon's legislative aide, Jason Carter.
Right.
We could put a call into him. Trying to remember on the Clay County side.
Brannon.
Oh, Senator Bradley, we have her contact.
Right.
So we're just going to have to contact some of those folks and ask, who do we get this information to?
Okay. So that's something that I still have open that we'll try to work on.
Yeah, Charlie, on the Clay County side, Sam Garrison might be a resource.
Yes, you're right. Just won re-election tonight. He's got 4 years left in his term. the last 2 years, so 2 years from now, he'll be the Speaker of the House for the 2027 and the 28 sessions. So if
What's his district?
he is the north
Yeah, he's not in,
Clay County.
yeah, but
He's not our district.
Right.
But one thing I learned quite a while is the people that chair the committee,
yeah,
Senate President, House Speaker, General Appropriations Chairman, and Senate and House. When you have people in your peer group.
Yeah.
that, you know, so, yes, he would be getting something lined up in the next 2 years and getting him educated and on board with it.
Judson Sapp
Yes, sir.
is,
You will be our next representative for this.
yeah, he's replacing Bobby Payne,
Yes.
right? So that's another resource, General Eifert, that we could leverage to
Judson Sapp, I don't have it.
He's literally getting elected tonight.
right. He's the new replacement, hopefully.
Could I ask, so a friend of mine works, and I'm just gonna leave it at this, in one of our surrounding neighboring counties. And his agency is a state agency that does well in septic tank siting. And he said there's a big push for areas that are bordering lakes, where lakes or waterways can be contaminated. There's a new requirement for a new type of septic type system. I think it's anaerobic, where it has other things that are done. But is water management, are they helping with this? Because they want to do away with more and more septic tanks, I think, especially near bodies of water, and we're near a body of water. Can they be an asset in this and helping the push? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure y'all have talked to them.
Yeah.
But are they working with the state legislators too to maybe push for us? I don't know, just a thought.
Who is that again?
St. Johns River Water Management. So I know years ago, people were just putting septic tanks anywhere. Well, now it's getting harder and harder. And my friend described to me that there's going to be these new type of septic tanks, and they're about double the price of a normal residential. And they're usually associated with septics that are near bodies of water. So they really would like to do away with that. Well, like I say, our airport borders the lake.
Right, so
I don't know if it could help or not, but.
to get county water, you mean?
Well, to get sewage removed from here rather than putting additional septic tanks in, you would think this is going in the same direction St. Johns River Water Management is towing the line.
Yeah.
I would think they'd want to be part of the conversation. They already are, I don't know.
Don't know about.
I don't know if they could be an aid or
and
whatever, so.
those are two different agencies too. CCUA is a different agency from
Right.
St. Johns Water Management.
So just a thought, but.
Yeah.
So they talked about looking for Jobs Growth Grant Fund and the EDA fund, grant funds as being potentially better ways to pursue funding for cheaper water projects than actually going through CCUA. And I don't know if that's something, I'm new to those.
Was that something that Amber had brought up?
Yeah.
With her connection with
And Crawford.
USDA
Yeah.
on that side of it? Yeah, that's why there's some, and here's what both of them brought up, both of them being economic development folks, was they were looking at a state level grant funding outside of the norm.
Right.
As well as federal. Amber was focusing more on some federal because she and Scott Cornegay and some other folks from Bradford County had just come from Washington, D.C. and met with USDA, several other federal agencies, and found out that there are some grant funding opportunities.
So is that something that we should pursue in some way or another, or I don't know where that was left exactly.
Well, I think before we get to that point, we got to bring it all back to the board.
Yeah.
And they get the board's action on, okay, let's move forward. And we may not know the specifics about the grant funding,
Right.
what agency or whether it's state appropriations or whatever. But at least I think the board's got to give us, we got to take the direction, okay, we're going to move forward with these projects and find funding for them. So we'll put that on the December agenda, Craig.
Okay. The last thing that they talked about that I thought was potentially valuable was lobbyists, using them to assist. And I think Amber or Craig or Crawford were talking about different lobbyists that they use to make the case in Tallahassee for the appropriations that we would need to grow. And I don't know if that's something as a board, maybe the next time we want to talk about. Another thing that Craig brought up since then was the Florida Airport Council, I think it is. And the fact that they have lobbyists that we could potentially also seek to assist us with trying to move some of our objectives forward. And then also was brought up the Small County Coalition, which I'm not sure, I don't really understand what that is and whether or not that could be something that we could use as well. So I just thought we all ought to be aware that these were recommendations that were made from some pretty smart people that we invited to that meeting. And I don't know how to put in the ground an action item that says, we're going to do this by this date, and this person has the hammer to make it happen. So I guess I'm throwing this out because I'm trying to figure out what are my left and right limits and what do we want to do next to try to make some of those strategic priorities happen. For example, the lobbyists, is this something that we need to vote on at the next meeting? Do we want to, I don't even know if we have money to do it. I don't know if it's legal. I don't know squat. I'm just bringing it all up because these are comments that were made by smarter people than me on the subject. So I don't know, is there anything you think we should?
Well, with respect to the lobbyists, there was Bradford County, Scott Cornegay, they used a lobbyist in Tallahassee for, I think, to help them with the Davis building. So they have a connection, and I think the next question was whether through Clay County and what they have,
One also.
then there was to have a conversation at least with Howard Wanamaker, the county manager, to find out if there was any opportunity there.
So legislative priorities is something I'm taking to the city council. And the way I've seen it work best is the airport would nest its priorities with Clay County's lobbyist, who is a Southern group. You know the Thrasher Warm Center in Orange Park? That got named after John Thrasher, when he was Speaker of the House and Jim Horn was in the Senate. I mean, when they were at the end of their 8 years, respectively, in the House and the Senate, then Clay County got that. It was probably a 20-year cycle, and then Senator Rob Bradley and Representative Travis Cummings kind of rose up into the ranks where we had two Clay County guys chairing general appropriations. So Clay County got a lot more financially healthy during that time. So I'd be happy to kind of go over some more ideas, but I think the next question to ask of the Clay County manager and just get, let him know that we want to talk to Southern Group is to see if they would all be willing to either take up our items, or do we need to put a little bit of skin in the game monetarily from the airport and the city of Keystone, and keep it all going, because we're not a big enough entity to kind of put things in that aren't kind of combined with them and expect a lot of success. We don't want to be fighting against them. And they've been over backwards to be helpful in the last year is the best way I could say it.
Right.
Through storms, through just just give them the information. So that would be the next right thing to do, I believe.
So we can do that legally, we could hire a lobbyist?
Yeah.
And could we do that in concert with like Clay County Chamber of Commerce? Would they go in with us, or can you pool money?
Well, Clay County Board of County Commissioners has a lobbyist, so if there's a way that they could be speaking for all of us, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Situation. What was the question you asked before that?
Well, I was just wondering if it was legal.
Yeah.
And then could we pool resources with like Chamber of Commerce or?
This other airport entity that Craig mentioned with the,
Florida Airports Council?
yeah, with lobbyists, we should explore that too. I mean, if we belong to that council and they've already got lobbyists on staff that they've paid for, that we've essentially paid for by paying our dues into that organization, I'm just not aware of that, but we need to look at that too.
Well, yeah, if we're a member of the Florida Airports Council, then we automatically have access to
The resources.
Is that something that we need to direct Craig to do, or can I do it? or-
Yeah, what I was going to suggest is you and Craig coordinate with Charlie and find out what that process would look like for us being under the umbrella of the city and the county as well, and see where we could go with that. We might also, in that same conversation, find out more detail on those committees, which committees would actually be looking at the requests we're thinking about proposing, and then what those contacts might be. So the three of y'all could work on that?
You got plenty of time, Charlie. You don't have anything going on in the city.
All they need to do is say yes when I call the first time I call, and then it shortens up for all of us.
I got a question for you, Jim. Is there, and y'all may not have gotten into the weeds enough, but of those CCUA things that were vetoed, did any of those have lobbyists working on them, or did you know that much?
Funding, they just would
Yeah, it was
fund it through,
the entire state.
Oh, it was just,
Oh, yeah.
everything.
It wasn't just CCU.
Okay.
Yeah. And here's the reality too, guys. Think about this. With all the storm damage we've had, there's got to,
Priority is going to be.
No strain in the.
there's
Yeah.
probably going to be some real tight
Right.
strings this year as well. So, but having these lobbyists that we could talk to, I'm sure, like we gathered from all of the group that was here in that strategic planning meeting was, you just get tidbits of information that's really helpful with, okay, here's where we need to move, or here's where we don't even want to pursue that. So,
And you may just have to build towards that future crescendo, like, I mean,
Correct.
it might be 3 years, 5 years down the road, but at least you got to start laying the foundation now.
Right.
So,
one of the things we do know, after our second year of going to Tallahassee, when you or I or Maria or whoever it was, when we said anything about the Keystone Airport, they knew about the Keystone Airport. So that's part of the battle too. I think being visible and they know who you are, that's part of the battle too.
Okay.
All right.
Get with you and Charlie and figure out what your next steps with that. Okay, sorry to be out of turn. I was trying to.
That's all right.
How this works.
Appreciate the update. Any other board comments? All right. We consider ourselves adjourned at 7:38.
Under 2 hours.
yeah.
Wonder what
I went through
Charlie
the
was
same
looking
thing.
at. Looking at the election results. I
Yeah.
wonder where we are.
I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Yeah, it's sort of like.
One main one I'm worried
Oh,
about.
I've got
Yeah,
one.
me too.
One.
Residential.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to know is which